questions that people often ask residents here in Pattaya, or expats I'm talking about, is what got you here? What was the journey? What made you come to Thailand? Well, I'm joined by a very interesting couple today, Leslie and Dave Goodchild, who have made the journey to Thailand, but in a way that's slightly different from everybody else. Let's start with Dave. Dave, you have this magnificent vehicle called a Plodd. What the hell's a Plodd?
Well, in children's terms in the UK, the word for a policeman is plod. Okay, and also plod means plodding, as in going slowly. So that's where the vehicle got its name from, because we was going to plod from the UK to Thailand.
All right. Okay. Now, we've got some shots that we're going to bring up of the Plodd. But tell me, how does this start? You actually have a residence here in Pattaya, but you have a residence in England as well. So basically, what you did is you said, well, let's join all the dots, but see if we can do it by land.
That's right. Yeah. So we decided to travel through Europe, 28 countries in total, and through Asia, through Russia, through China, Laos, into Thailand.
So this was a dream of yours and Leslie's?
No, actually, it was mine. I was determined to do this trip. Well, I started thinking about it about 8 years ago. Then, for personal reason, we was put on the back burner. Then we met a couple in Laos about 18 months ago that actually just driven from Switzerland to Thailand, and they are now in Australia. However, that got me thinking more, and Leslie and I discussed it a little, and we decided to look for a vehicle that's capable of doing the trip.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about the vehicle in a moment. Leslie, how did you react to all this when your charming yet mad husband decides that he's going to drag you all the way from your home in England back to here, but via a vehicle?
I didn't think it would work. I didn't think it would happen. Right. I was just one day to the next thinking, yes, okay, well, he'll grow out of this idea. Right. This won't happen. And then the vehicle arrived, and then the inside arrived, and then it started looking like it was going to happen. So I resigned myself to the fact that I was going on a 6-month trip in an 8x6 room. Yeah. And I think, well, I'm still here.
Well, you've got a beautiful property here in Pattaya, and I'm sure you do in England as well. But to come across in the confines of Plodd must have been. I mean, it's all right for us blokes. We can manage, but for women, we're used to slightly better standards, right?
Definitely. Yeah. The biggest problem was that everything has to be stored away, and men put nothing away. That's right. And everything that I did have that I wanted was under the bed, which was the storage area. So I must have lifted that bed up and down 50 times every day, and every time I opened a cupboard, something fell out. Okay. So I said, when I get to Thailand, I know that I will go to open a cupboard and automatically put my hands underneath it to catch something coming out. Right. But, yeah, it was okay.
You made it, right? All right, so this couple that you met in Laos, they were the catalyst for you saying, right, we can do this. But then you had to source the vehicle. Now you alluded at the beginning, Plodd, PC Plodd. So what's the connection?
The connection is I went on the internet looking for a vehicle. Initially we thought about a purpose-built vehicle. Then we was told that a camper van isn't the best vehicle to do it in. You need a truck because of the shaking and the vibration of the roads, and believe me, they were right. So I looked and I sourced this vehicle that was being sold by Avon and Somerset Police. It was an ex-prison vehicle, category A, which means that it only ever had very serious criminals in it, maybe terrorists and such the like. So it was up for sale. Nobody wanted it because it had all the cells in it. Some of my friends said perhaps leave one of the cells in for Les. Anyway, so we did take all the cells out of it. I took all the cells out of it, which took a real lot of weight off the vehicle. And then we bought an interior of a damaged caravan, and I installed most of that myself. Then it went to a specialist company in Leyland in the UK who put on the fuel, the extra fuel tanks, the water tanks, the gas tanks, solar power, air conditioning, and we had it all built into Plodd. So really the word Plodd comes because we were going to go slowly across Europe and Asia, and also with it being an ex-police vehicle, Plodd.
Sure. Okay. Now, I guess, given the journey that you took, it wasn't about getting from A to B in the quickest fashion, because you took, at one point you actually went down to Greece and Croatia, which I'm assuming wasn't necessary.
No. Well, we spent many holidays in Greece. We wanted to go back to the Greek islands. We never got to the Greek islands, incidentally. We stayed on the mainland. But also we had family in Hungary, so I wanted to go and see my family in Hungary, which we stayed 10 days with them, had a fantastic time in Budapest. Then we went down towards Greece. Albania was amazing. Croatia was wow. The actual scenery in Croatia is incredibly beautiful. And then Albania, we stayed in just outside the capital of Albania at a hotel campsite, and they had chickens running around, and I watched the lady go and collect the eggs every morning. And one morning I said, "Excuse me, can I have a look?" And she had a copper pan with 6 eggs in, and she said, "Would you like them?" And they were still warm from the chicken. You know, that was amazing. So we had 6, the freshest eggs you could possibly have.
You know, I bet you've got many memories and many experiences. Let's just recap. How many countries did you actually go through to get to Thailand?
28 countries. Yeah, I won't name them all.
Okay, yeah, of course, there's so many. And how long is that in miles or kilometres?
25,800 less.
25,454 kilometres, 15,980 miles.
See, women got all the figures now. They can remember all that stuff.
I drove it, but let's calculate it all.
Okay, well, you know, it's just as well. You know what we're like with maps. We've got to let the women do that.
3,000 litres of diesel.
Okay, all right. So Dave's saying about these little gems that he remembers. What about for you, Leslie? What are the things that that if you were to put this on your blog or in your diary, or even just sort of pitch it away in your mind, what are the things that you remember from all these wonderful countries?
Just so many different things, but the one thing that does come to mind was when we went from before we got into Mongolia, Russia into Mongolia. It was such a difference, huge difference, more than I'd noticed in any other border, and the people were just so unassuming, and everybody's house was open. And wild horses were walking through the street. And
this is in Mongolia or Russia?
Mongolia, yeah. And camels. And it was just another world, completely another world. And I couldn't get over the wild horses. They were just so beautiful, so beautiful. Okay.
And Dave, one of the stories you were telling me before we went on camera was that Leslie's talking about borders, but in one country, which I think was the Ukraine, you ended up going into a state within the Ukraine or something. Can you explain that?
It was actually in Moldova. And it's a country within a country that's not recognised by anyone other than themselves and the Russian Federation. It's called
Transnistria.
Transnistria.
Yeah, and we arrived at we went into Moldova, and then we went through the customs and all the regular border control. Then maybe 10 kilometres further on, we went through another set. I thought, well, this is strange. We're not in the Ukraine, because that was our plans to go through Moldova into the Ukraine. And we just didn't know. We didn't recognise any of the flags. We didn't recognise the army uniforms, and it was very military. And then they started trying to extract some money from us. They said we had too many beers, and we would have to pay export duty from Moldova into the Transnistria, whatever, and then we would have to pay to take it out. I said, no, not prepared to pay it. I'll throw it away. Anyway, eventually there was a very high-ranking officer shouted at the customs guy, leave them alone, and that was it. We was allowed to go through, yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds terrifying. I mean, you're used to having to deal with some situations like that to some level or some degree here in Thailand, but it must have been a bit scary. How did you feel at that time, Leslie?
I didn't know what to think, because they were in green and red outfits, and I knew that the Ukraine was blue and yellow, and I couldn't work out where we were. And nobody was informing us of anything. They were just writing dollar signs on paper, which we ended up paying, I don't know, maybe $50, something like that. But initially they wanted 300. But more importantly, Dave was threatening to throw all the beer down the drain.
Okay.
Or drink.
You managed to talk some sense into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, well, we might be spending 2 weeks here, just sat here drinking the beer because we don't want to pay the excess duty on it. But then 20 kilometres after that, we got into the Ukraine.
Okay. So, I mean, what about? We talked a little bit about the sort of bureaucracy and some of the people. What about things like food? I mean, were you sort of thinking? Were you noodles and stuff, quick stuff from home, or were you able to experience some of the food? And was that a joy, or was that as scary as ending up in a country within a country?
No, food was great. I've eaten my way across 2 continents.
It's all that lifting of the bed. You've got to keep your strength up, right?
And enjoyed most of it. There has been a few gastronomic travesties, but mostly it's been nice. It's been good. Mongolia, we couldn't find any fruit or vegetables. Nothing.
Right.
There was, if you went into a store, you could buy a potato and a carrot, but they were like somebody had just dug them up and no, and the fruit just wasn't there. I didn't see anything. They have fat with everything.
Right.
They even, when they make a cup of tea, they put a cube of beef fat in the tea with the sugar.
Okay.
I don't know. Presumably because in the cold, or I don't really know. But
I guess it could be. I mean, when Thais look at us as Farangs, we tend to be a little bit heavier set than that, and that's because of hundreds of years of protecting our body from the elements. Oh, that's the excuse that I use anyway. What about for you, Dave? What about the different cuisines and everything that you had to experience? Or for you, was it you just took it in your stride?
The food was fantastic generally. We didn't have any poor quality food. We did carry quite a lot of food. Les did quite a bit of cooking on the way. But I remember that the strangest experience was we was in China for a month, or 30 days in China. And we was continuously using chopsticks all the time because there was no knives and forks. It was chopsticks. And we got quite good with the chopsticks. Then the first day we arrived in Laos, we ordered a meal in the restaurant, and they gave us a knife and a spoon and a fork. And we both looked at each other, and we thought, where's our chopsticks? You couldn't believe that you'd left what was natural to you behind, and we was quite happy. One breakfast I had a fried egg, and I used chopsticks. Try that.
Well, there you go. There's a challenge for everybody, isn't it? But it is funny, isn't it? Because you do get used to it very quickly. I mean, in Thailand, I was always surprised the first time I came to Thailand that they didn't use chopsticks. I mean, there are somewhere, but you get used to eating with a fork and a spoon. And even when I go to restaurants and they bring a knife and a fork, I'll sometimes ask for a spoon because you just get so. Well, I guess the idea is that you're climatizing or acclimatizing. So, well, it's been a big journey. One of the other little stories you were talking about this woman who give you the eggs and everything, but there was another thing that I read about was something to do with your laundry, because again this is a sort of mundane task, but it was something that you have to take care of. Who'd like to explain that about the twin tub?
Oh yeah. So we arrived in Mongolia, and like I said, the trip through Mongolia, you was either desert or town. There was no in between. In fact, at lunchtime, when we was staying in the town, we used to go into the desert, set up our little table and chairs, and have lunch in the desert. It was amazing.
The horses and the camels.
Having a picnic with that as a sort of backdrop.
Yeah. I actually gave one of the wild horses an apple, which was a bit scary.
That's what you say, yeah.
Yeah, a bit. But it was only a little one, full.
But he meant a little apple.
And he enjoyed it. He was a bit awestruck, but
I'm sure. All right.
I said about the laundry. It was quite difficult. You go for maybe a week or 10 days and not find anywhere you can do your laundry. So we arrived in this town in the middle of nowhere in Mongolia, and we found a restaurant called the Royal something. It was the only English writing in the whole of the town, I think. So we went that evening and had dinner there. Yeah, the food was good. And when I went to the toilet, I spotted a twin tub washing machine. So I thought, that'd be okay if we could get to use that. So we had dinner that night, and then the next morning I went back to the restaurant. And as luck was it in for us, the waitress that had served us was actually in there. So I explained to her in my broken Mongolian that I don't speak, and her broken English that she didn't speak very much of, that I wanted my clothes washing. I'm doing this, So she said, I said, do you know anywhere? So she said, I'll ask my boss. Anyway, the boss came out, and there was no offer of the washing machine that I'd seen. So that was that, really. I came away thinking, well, that didn't work. About an hour later, there was on the side of Plodd, it was the waitress, and she said, "Give me your washing. I will take it to have it washed for you." I said, "Oh, thank you very much, very kind." Anyway, she didn't mean she was going to take it to the laundrette. She actually meant she would take it home, wash it for us, and bring it back. You know, it was one of the most wonderful things, not having the washing done, but it's just people. The most amazing part about the trip was the people we met. We met some fantastic people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a hell of an experience, and I mean, it is a journey of a lifetime. So, Leslie, what if he says to you, right, we're going to do the same in reverse, or go back via 28 different countries?
Would you like to turn the microphone off?
like set up the bleep machine, right?
Yes, good idea. No comment.
Okay. Right. But for you, Dave?
Well, I enjoy driving. It's my hobby, my passion, really. I love driving. Plodd is a fantastic vehicle to drive. She's huge, she's great, she's powerful.
She handles mountains very well.
Right, yes.
Well,
I guess the mountains, 'cause I mean, I would imagine that some of the roads that you had to, you couldn't even call roads.
Horrendous, especially in China. I mean, you look up at the clouds, yeah? We were looking down at them. That's how high up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we were 4,000 something meters above sea level.
Okay.
Oh,
Terrifying.
oh, terrifying! Absolutely, yeah.
And him in control.
Yeah.
But not with a few
And
beers.
I'm sat in the driver's seat, really.
Because we're right on drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only two countries that we travelled into that was right on drive, the appropriate side for their vehicle, was the UK and Thailand. And everything in between was that we was on the wrong side of the road, for want of a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, it's a challenge, isn't it? Although, you know, in Myanmar, it's the right-hand steering wheel, same as us, but they drive on the right, which is even more confusing.
Yeah, very difficult.
Yeah. I was in Burma last year, and you feel like the other drivers are way across there somewhere.
Yeah, how weird.
It is weird, and again, it was the only country I've ever been like that. But, you know, these are the little things.
We finished up on a mountain pass in China, very, very high. The altitude was very, very high. And there was a coach coming the other way. We was on the outside, closest to the 2,000 metre drop or whatever it was. And the coach wouldn't move. So it left. I pulled right into the side of the cliff side, and I flashed him to come on. I was going to have to go around the outside of him. One of the vehicles.
So I've got the Italian job. Remember the Italian job coming in?
Very much so. So we got bumper to bumper at the front. Yeah. We had some people following us that was on radio communication with us, telling us I'm getting too close to the edge. And I actually opened my window and looked down, and I was maybe 50 millimetres from the edge of the cliff. No barrier, nothing, just open. And I'm scared of heights, and I just looked down, and all I could see was clouds above it. It was very, very scary. And we crawled past this vehicle, and the people behind said, "Dave, your door handle is now touching the coach." On the side of Plodd's door handle, we was that close to the vehicle, but I couldn't go any further that way. I would have been going over the edge. And it took us probably 20 minutes to get past that coach. There was people blasting the horns behind us, but I don't know what they wanted to do. If I could have got a helicopter to lift us, we'd have been having a helicopter.
Absolutely. And for you, Leslie?
I was crying. I was. I got out. I just could not sit in there any longer. I got out, and if I could have got to the driver in the coach, I would have physically dragged him out. But he locked himself in and turned the engine off. He was no way was he moving.
Around him, and that was it, full stop. Right. Yeah, that was probably the most worrying time. And actually, for a couple of nights later, was both waking up, startled, going back on it. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a great experience, and hats off to you both for doing this. I mean, it's obviously something that you wanted to do, and you went through all the logistics of sourcing Plodd, and following your goals that you wanted to do, but also for you, Leslie, because to believe in your husband enough to think, yeah, it's a reality and we're going to do it, and like I say, putting aside all the usual luxuries that you have, but then to get this experience, I mean, just to name one, you feeding apples to baby horses in Mongolia. I mean,
yeah, it is, yeah. And he owes me now one long trip on the Orient Express.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, we might do that because it's 30 years. We've been married 30 years in November this year, so maybe the Orient Express is quite appropriate.
Okay. Well, there you go. A wonderful couple who've had done a wonderful journey all the way from England to Thailand via Plodd and all these countries. How many countries again, Dave?
28 countries.
28 countries. And but as you said, it's not just about where you're going, it's how you get there, whether it's looking down ravines or meeting some wonderful people in the process. And their journey will continue with the Orient Express for their 30th year anniversary. In the meantime, this is Paul for PMTV. See you again. Bye-bye. All right, thank you.